Good morning everybody and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to make something a little bit decadent. It's a baked cheesecake. And I've been promising to make this for a long time and today is the day because we are back on lockdown again here in Ireland. So we have a little bit of time to do all the things that we didn't have time to do before. So I am using these caramelized biscuits to make my biscuit base, but if you can't get them, I think the brand name, the typical brand name is Lotus biscuits. I'm just using a cheaper unbranded version. They'll be exactly the same, but if you don't want to use these, you can just use digestive biscuits or Oaties, or if you're in North America, you could use graham crackers. I think that's what they call them. So I'm just going to pop these into my food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can put them into a Ziploc bag and bash away at them like that. I've told people they can have their breakfast over there if they're very quiet, but they're not doing a very good job of it. So I'm going to blitz this here until they resemble fine breadcrumbs. So here we go. That's them all bashed up, and I've already done some more in here because I love a biscuit base. So I'm making a huge cheesecake today, so I'm automatically doubling the recipe. But I'm also, that looks like an awful lot of biscuit. I think I might have to half that because I always love the biscuit base, but I think I might have been too generous. Look, we'll give it a go. I'm adding to my biscuit some melted butter that I just popped into the microwave. So I'm just going to give it all a stir up, and you need the butter so that your biscuit doesn't crumble up too much. And that is the sound of the dog trying to get in on the action. She scraped the window or door until you can't stand the noise anymore, and then you have to get up and let her in. So if you can see in here, this is all quite moist and nearly every crumb has been coated. So I had 225 grams of biscuits to 100 grams of butter. But because I love the biscuit base, I always double that amount. But in the original recipe, it only calls for that amount. So you can do whatever you want to do. I have one of these lovely spring form tins, which really is a must if you're making a cheesecake because it allows you to pop it out at the end. And I'm using just my, this is a normal cake liner that I've just spread out to coat the bottom of the tin. But in the meantime, I'm also going to just use an end of a butter wrapper and run around the side and, you know, quite liberally grease the sides of the tin, because when your cheesecake cooks and it starts to melt, it'll automatically pull away from the sides of the tin and you don't want it to stick and crack. So that's why you want to liberally butter it there. Pop the paper back in, and now I'm going to just pour in my biscuit base in here, and I definitely have way too much. So I'm just going to use half of this. So don't mind me. There you go, another mistake by Sheena Foy. That doesn't really matter. That can be fixed. All cooking is a learning process. I know what happened. The last tin I used was much deeper than this, and that's why I've run out of space here. But I will have enough biscuit base. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing it down quite firmly into the bottom of the tin. And it's worth spending a bit of time doing this right, because this will also prevent your biscuit base from cracking and crumbling, okay? So I'm going to pop this into the fridge now while I make the cheese part for the top, and that helps it set when it goes into the oven. So I'll be back. So guys, we're on to the cheese making stage now, and I am using 7 of these little, it's like a cream cheese tubs, which is 1400 grams. I'll write all this up anyway, the complete instructions and weights and all that later on, so don't worry about it. So I'm using 7 tubs of these, and I'm going to add to that some caster sugar, which I measured last night and I can't remember. So I'm just going to pop the two of them in together and beat them together first. And I'm going to add a splash of vanilla, maybe 2 teaspoons of vanilla in there. So we're back to homeschooling here, and it's great fun, I have to say. Job number 1, get people out of bed in the morning. Impossible. So, especially after Christmas when everybody's just been kind of lying low and hanging about, it's very difficult to get back into the swing of things. So I left my cream cheese at room temperature last night. So it's really soft and it's mixing very, very well here. So I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs. And I'm going to add 6 eggs to this here. If you don't have a mixer, you can do all of this by hand. Don't worry about it. And then if you're doing it by hand, it's especially important that your cheese is at room temperature. Anyway, the thing about cream cheese is if it's not at room temperature, it's very difficult to get it to beat. Especially if you were making like a cream cheese frosting. It tends to not mix very well if your butter and your cream cheese are not both at room temperature. So I literally could do this by hand, it's so soft. But I'll come back to you in a minute when it's beaten. As you can see in here, this is thickened up really nicely. Once you start beating the eggs into the cheese, it just starts to thicken up and becomes a nice pouring consistency. So I've taken my biscuit out of the fridge and I'm going to pour half of this mixture in here, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Halfway through, I'm going to add some berries. So I smooth that out around the edges there, all the way to the very edge. And I'm going to use some fresh raspberries today because I love that tartness of the raspberry with the sweetness of the cream cheese. Okay, so I've already washed my raspberries and there's no signs to this, you just plop them on. It is nice to get some quite close to the edge so that whenever you take off the outer layer, the spring tin, you can see that nice edge of raspberry when you slice into it, if that makes sense. You can use whatever kind of fruit you like in here, or no fruit at all. Or you could flavor your cream cheese mixture to whatever kind of flavor you want either as well. A lot of people like Bailey's cheesecake, or you could play around with some nice chocolate or things like that, but because it's baked, the chocolate will probably melt a little bit. This tin is definitely smaller than the one I used the last time because I think I had an extra inch of height on here, but look, it'll be fine. So I'm just going to cover over the top with the rest of the mixture, and I hope it doesn't rise too much when it's baking because I haven't given myself a whole lot of room in here. I'm right up to the very top. This will be a nice experiment in what not to do. Could be grand, be grand. We had, this is Brian's favourite dessert, cheesecake, so he wanted it for his birthday last April, and I kept asking him, do you want chilled or baked? And he was like, I think I want chilled, and I'm like, no, I think you want baked. He was like, no, I think I want chilled. I'm like, no, I think you want baked. Anyway, we went for the chilled because it was his birthday, and then we made one of these at Christmas time, and he loved it. So, baked is what he wants. Now, I'm just going to give it a tiny little tap, and that gets the all the raspberries, you know, they would leave little air pockets, so that gets all the raspberries covered. If you have a bigger tin, please use a bigger tin because it shouldn't be quite that full. You should leave a little bit of room for expansion. And this is a really important part here. You need to cover your tin completely with tin foil from the outside. So I'm going to make a double layer, and I might even go further and do a triple layer because I hate a soggy biscuit base. So I'm just going to wrap it around like that, kind of folding it in over itself, just like this. Because you're actually going to cook this in a bain-marie. So I'm just going to do one more layer because I just cannot handle a wet biscuit base. Just to be sure. All the way up to the top. And I'm going to place this in a tray here that I have just about this much water in. So it just comes up to about 1/3 of the tray, or yeah, about 1/3 of my pie dish, okay? Just make sure the tin foil is not touching the edge of the cheesecake. And I'm going to pop this into the oven. I can't remember what the temperature is. I'll put it up there and the time. I'll see you in a bit. So guys, this is the finished product. I don't know if you can see, but it's still slightly wobbly, and that's the point you want to take it out of the oven. It's just starting to go a little bit golden brown and starting to pull away from the edges here, so I know that it's done. It tastes delicious. So I'm going to let it sit in. I'm actually going to take it out of the bath and let it cool down out of the water. And you have to let it completely cool down, so that takes a couple of hours. Hopefully I'll get to show you a slice, but other than that, that's simple cheesecake, baked cheesecake, and it hasn't split on us, which is fantastic. That's the goal. I think the bain-marie is the trick for doing a good cheesecake that doesn't split on the top. Hope you get a chance to make one of these, guys. God bless. See you soon. You've never